Ta-da! Hello everybody, it's me, ScarylarryJapan, and today I am celebrating my 15th anniversary here in Japan.
It's not unusual to see me cry. I wanna die.
And the anniversary of the second worst day of my life during my Japanese language school career.
Fucking cock! Fuck!
I originally came to Japan when I was 19. And at that time, I was studying Japanese in high school. I really wanted to, come to Japan and experience living here, coming here for a year to learn the language. And upon learning Japanese, I would go back to the States and continue my degree and whatever I wanted to do. I originally came to Japan with KCP International, doing the course through Western Washington University. And I came. I basically, packed up all my luggage, left my small town in Colorado.
So long, sucker.
Got on the airplane, which was my second time being on an airplane. I was so exhausted because I don't sleep on flights, as a lot of people might know. I'm scared of flying.
Can't stand it anymore. I've got to get out of here. I've got to get out.
And flew to Japan. Upon arrival, of course, the school set us up with like pickup service. So all the staff came, picked us up, took us to our accommodation. At that time, I was actually staying with the host family. They were quite young. They were around 28 and around 30 at that time. So about the same age I am now, sure. And they took me out to dinner the first night, like, what do you want to eat? We'll take you to, sushi, whatever you want to eat. But I was so I ended up just, eating like yakisoba that night and I went to bed. So the following day was actually the first day of orientation. And this is when my dream turned into a nightmare. So my host mom, go back to the day. I know young people don't understand this, but there were no such things as Google Maps or Apple Maps or whatever maps you might have on your phone now. Kakao Maps. There's so many programs now. Back in the day, you had to rely on a paper map. I did not speak Japanese, and there weren't many maps available to English speakers in Japan. So my host mom, what she did is she got a little A4 letter size piece of paper, and she's like, okay, you exit out exit 3, you go up this way, turn left, turn this way, and you'll see our house. So that's your house. But it was like a 10-minute walk. I was like, oh, fine, I have this instructions, I should be fine. And just in case, she wrote her phone number and her address down as well on the piece of paper. In case I got lost, I can ask someone, which wouldn't work because I didn't speak Japanese, so no logic in that.
Haro? Hibachi Benihana Teriyaki.
Nagasaki, Okinawa, Hokkaido, Yokohama.
So I went to orientation. I was able to get to the school fine, which was located in Shinjuku. And, we did the orientation thing. We basically, took our level test and all this stuff. And it ended up ending around 5 p.m. And at that time, a lot of the students, they were like, oh, let's go out to dinner. Let's get to know each other. Let's be friends. So I ended up going to dinner with a group of students. My host mom, I called her in advance from the school phone saying, I'll be late. Please, I'll be back around 8 p.m. We're just going to have a quick dinner and I'll be back. So once dinner was over, we ended up taking the train back to, so I lived in Itabashi-ku, which was located on the Mita line. And I believe the station was Itabashi Honcho Mae. I think that's Itabashi Honcho, I think is the station. Yes. Itabashi Honcho was the station I lived at. So I had to ride the train from Shinjuku Station, the Shinjuku line, and take it all the way to whatever station it is. And then you transfer to the Mita line. Well, in the process of that, I was quite dumb. I actually misplaced the paper my host mom made for me in order to find my way back. And upon exiting the station, I was like, oh shoot, where is this paper? I was literally lost. I could not find anywhere to go. I was just in trouble, literally in trouble. So I ended up taking the exit 3, which was the complete opposite side of the station when the exit was supposed to be 1 or something. And I was like just wandering the streets for a couple hours trying to find my way home. And I remember just like walking around, like lost in this like, residential neighborhood where everything, if you've been to Japan, like all residential neighborhoods look the same. Like all the houses basically look the same, especially if it's in a newly developed area. So I was walking around lost, trying to figure out where to go, what to do, who to talk to. So I was like, okay, well, what I've read online is that if you get lost in Japan, you should always go to the convenience store. So I actually went to the convenience store and I somehow remember the address. Like I didn't really remember. I remember the numbers. Like I remember like the actual like full Japanese address. But I was like, okay, and it's like one dash blah 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 dash something something. So I went to the 7-Eleven, which I found, which is about a couple blocks from the station. And this was like an hour had passed by, and I was just like roaming around like a lost fool, not knowing what to do. And what he did, which is quite, I didn't agree, I didn't like, was he actually said, "Hey, foreigner," like, he spoke some English. He's like, "Hey, come with me." So I was like, "Okay, I guess I'll go with you." Maybe he's still like, "Oh, maybe he knows where my host family lives. He's taking me to my host family's house. Maybe I'm finally safe from the situation." No, he actually took me to the Koban, which is the police box in Japan. And there is when my so-called horrible night turned to hell. So
I knew I should have stayed home.
upon entering the Koban, I was basically talked to by these two old Japanese policemen who probably never dealt with a foreigner before at this time. And they were just asking me things like, I spoke some Japanese. So I'd be like, I'm from America, like America desu, and stuff like that. But they're like speaking to me like in Keigo, honorific language, which was like nobody knows the beginner level. And they're like harassing me. They're like, "Oh, where are you from? Blah, blah, blah." I think they're trying to say like, what's the name of the family? I knew their names. And so they kept on just harassing me, like, "Show me your passport, show me your ID card," which I didn't have at that time because it's still getting processed. They're asking me like, "Oh, do you do drugs?" I'm like, no. Like, I just came here to study, and it's my like second day here, and I'm jet lagged, and I'm beat up, and I'm lost. So, okay. So, anyways, as time went by, and after an hour of being hustled by the police, they finally found my host family, like in the phone book, because this is back in the day when people had landlines, not cell phones, and they ended up calling my host family. And at that time, my host father actually came to pick me up from the police station, and I remember I was like just so embarrassed because I think they were already like asleep or about to go to bed because he came like in his pajamas on a bike. And I just felt so bad that like I was lost and I couldn't find my way back home despite them writing this map for me. And like it's just like I thought it was a bad impression as an international student to come all the way to Japan, get lost, and then cause a big inconvenience to my host family, especially someone who kind of went out their way to sponsor a student. And he walked me home. He was very chill about it. He's like, he's like, "Too bad you got lost, blah blah blah, like, I'll draw you a better map tomorrow and maybe you can find your way back again." And upon entering the house, my host mom was, there. And she was like all worried about me. Like, "Oh my God, are you okay? We were worried because you never came home. We thought maybe you were just like having a fun night out or something." I was like, "No, I was lost for like 4 hours, getting harassed by police, and walking around random neighborhoods." But yeah, that was like my first night in Japan. And I remember like I was just kind of like angry, I would say. I was more upset.
I hate it here. I want to go home.
That like I came here, I finally, accomplished the dream of coming to a foreign country to live and study the language, but I kind of like screwed up the first day. And this is my first time away from home. I was never away from home before this. Like I always, wanted to like leave my family, and I was like away from family and I was by myself and I was lost and I was scared and I couldn't talk to people for help if I wanted to. And it was actually a sad first day in Japan, and I was like, maybe I shouldn't have come. But as time went by, the next day went on, and you forget these things that happen in Japan or anywhere you go. You go to any language, any country, and don't know the language. Of course, the first couple of months to year might be hard for you, but you learn to adapt and you learn the language. And yeah, that was my second night in Japan, and probably one of the most interesting nights I had, or one of the nights I had where I actually kind of was scared and I was worried about what others might think of me. And yeah, that was it. You know, it was a good night and I survived. And next day I made sure I didn't lose the map and I always came home on time and I never stayed late because I didn't want the same situation to happen again. And that is it. Yeah. So it's been 15 years. I just want to, you know, tell my friends and family about my first night in Japan. Everybody thinks I love it and it's a perfect country. And I had a good time once I came here. But yes, my second day was quite bad. But, you know, everything has a nice learning curve to it. So anyways, I'd like to thank you for listening to my little short anniversary story about my second day and horrible day in Japan at that time. And I'm looking forward to talking to everybody later. Bye.